Welcome to Straight Outta Health IT. Getting into health tech is rough, but here's an unfiltered dialogue of healthcare leaders and influencers covering a wide variety of issues affecting healthcare and the health tech industry. And now your host, Christopher Kunney.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, good morning, whatever time you're checking out this episode of Straight Out of Health IT. I am Christopher Kunney, your host, and I have the luxury of having two very dynamic individuals on the show today, all from ATL, so shout out ATL. And we are here today in Los Angeles, California, attending the 2024 Vive Conference. Without further ado, let me introduce you to Nadine Peeve, who is the Market Access Director for Innsena, and Alexa Morse, Health Strategy Manager at Accenture. Welcome, ladies.
Thanks for having us.
You're very welcome. And not only that they have some amazing roles at their organizations, their respective organizations, they are also founders of a new initiative that I had an opportunity to participate in most recently called Bonfire. So we are going to have a very interesting conversation about a host of topics in the next 20 minutes. I'm going to tell you right now, I got to have you back on. So, because we're not going to get to everything I want to cover, but we'll at least give the audience a teaser of some of that. Okay.
I love it.
Oh, wonderful. So the first thing I want to talk about, and as we were prepping for this, is as I attend Vive for me is really interesting versus some of the other conferences that are out there, because I get the sense that this is really the next generation of healthcare IT leaders that are heavily represented here. So you got a lot of emerging technology companies, you got a lot of Millennials and Gen X's and Gen Y's and Gen Z's that are a part of this ecosystem that are bringing true innovation and disruption to the healthcare ecosystem. But then there's also people like me who've been around long in the teeth and have created some of these problems for you guys to deal with. I want to talk a little bit about and get your perspective on healthcare today from the Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Z perspective. And then also I want to touch a little bit about your new founding initiative, Bonfire. So I'm going to just do two things before we get started. Also, I want you to maybe take about 2 minutes or 3 minutes to just talk a little bit about your journey, what you do at your organization, and why are you in healthcare. So we'll start with Alexa.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Alexa. My journey in healthcare. So really started out on the public health side of things and transitioned more to the intersection of public health, business, and technology.
Okay.
Ran commercialization programs for a few years, focused on early stage health technology companies, pre-seed, seed stage. And then I've been in consulting for 2.5 years now and really focus on growth strategy across payer and provider.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I've been in health tech for, 13-ish years. I started 12 years old. I was a toddler with a diaper.
Exactly.
They were like, my mom, they start me
right.
early. They, how
Absolutely.
they get kids into coding. This is health tech.
There you go.
My first word was interoperability.
I love it.
No, so I started back at Meditech ages ago.
Interesting.
People are surprised.
Yeah, I am.
You never knew. The fun fact about me, first
right?
job was Meditech. So I started out doing customer success work at Meditech, and I was listening to a podcast. I was not really feeling it. Just not super my vibe. Great company, just not my vibe.
No, understood.
So I'm driving home, listening to some health tech podcast, and then I hear, it's such a funny story. I heard Jonathan Bush. He must love this story. I heard Jonathan Bush on a podcast,
Right.
and I was already thinking about what my next job was, and I hear him on this guy on a podcast. I'm like, this guy's crushing it. What he's doing, I was like, whatever he's doing, I really want to get behind it. I want to be a part of this thing that Jonathan's building.
Exactly.
I went and applied to 15 jobs at Athena Health.
Exactly.
Basically, I was like, I'm qualified to do implementations. I'm qualified to do customer success.
Whatever.
Anything,
I can make
everything.
it happen.
So then I was at Athena for 6 or 7 years.
So you actually got a job there.
I did. They hired me by the grace of God.
3 different jobs.
They
hired 3 different roles.
We actually worked there together.
Oh, really?
And that
I didn't know either.
We did, yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So Alexa and I, we overlapped there.
Okay. You guys have been partners in crime for a
We
minute.
weren't really friends there, though.
Yeah, right.
No. Yeah. Not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
Alexa comes into the picture later.
A little bit later.
Okay, we got to hear that story too.
I'm long-winded here.
No worries.
So I did integrations. The integration team hired me. I did lab integrations
Okay.
and lab partnerships for several years there. And then a former VP at Innsena. He had gone to go work with Jonathan Bush again at his next venture, Zeus. And so Evan had approached me and said, hey, we're building something cool. Do you want to be part of it? I was like, yeah. You guys don't have a website. I have no idea what you do. Why do you is another Greek god thing? Come on, really?
Can we let that go?
And this was even before it was like actually spelled like Zeus and not the new like silly fun spelling. So I went on to go head up data partnerships at Zeus, and then I was doing that for a little while. And then I met Kat McDevitt, and after 2 years,
Kat McDevitt, right?
She's the best person ever. I love her. So then after 2 years of her trying to get me to come work for her, I bit the bullet and then joined the Innsena team 8 months ago.
Wonderful.
It's been
wonderful.
Great decision. It's been a lot of fun.
Exactly. Now let's get back to the friend-making story. How did this all evolve? How did you guys hook up?
One day I was talking to Brendan Keeler, the health API guy,
right?
If you've heard of him.
I have.
Talking to him about just product strategy in general and what he did. And he mentioned, I know this girl, Nadine. She's super cool.
Right.
I think you guys would be friends. She's just really fun. I feel like you should meet her.
Exactly.
So we met up, we had coffee. And I think actually in the email that Nadine sent whenever Brendan made the introduction, she said something like, I can't wait to be best friends. And then it had the cross out through it. And I was like, I don't really know how I respond to that.
Right. Yeah. Vulcan mind trick some of you here.
I actually ignored it. Yeah. I was like, I just completely didn't acknowledge it in my response. But yeah, we met up, got coffee, and then we became friends. Yes. We started planning some happy hours.
Exactly.
Both of us are passionate about connecting people within healthcare. And now we're business partners.
What a
and
great
we've started
story.
Bonfire.
But more importantly, are you friends?
We are.
I think we're friends.
I get asked this a lot.
Yeah.
I actually had somebody come up to me yesterday in the
Is
conference,
that right?
and they said, "Are you and Nadine actually friends, or do you only hang out at conferences?" And I said, "Yes,
of course,
we're friends.
Absolutely."
That's a weird question.
Do
we not seem like friends?
I think we seem like friends.
What do you think, Chris?
The jury's still out.
Okay.
No, I think you guys are perfect. You're perfect from the day one I met you.
Which is
friends. Why, it's cool people. It definitely is cool people for sure.
You're a perfect fit for best friends.
That's right. Absolutely. You're definitely cool people for sure. Let's talk a little bit about us old fogies screwing up healthcare and you guys trying to figure out how to fix it.
I did want to say, I was going to call out earlier, you mentioned the problems that you created. I like to think of them as opportunities.
I love that.
Really
thank you for being gracious
we gotta
for
reframe
us
it.
folks who screwed everything up.
No, you made a lot of opportunities. You really
absolutely. We created some jobs for folks, right?
Endless jobs in healthcare.
Absolutely. A lot to fix.
Thank you for the job.
I do my part. And we're still around, so we're not done yet.
As millennials, and I know you mentioned Gen Zs earlier, millennials need job security.
No, absolutely.
Thank you again.
You're very welcome. Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about your view of where healthcare is today, especially at a conference like this, where you've got this transformation that is trying to birth transformation and disruption. And you've got a group of people also that are off on their own talking about where we are today and doing the same things that they've always done, maybe trying to transform, but not doing it as rapidly, I'm sure, as you guys would want to see it happen. So not trying to put words in your mouth. If you like the way things are progressing, please share that. I'm sure some folks would be happy. But also just curious, what are we doing wrong and what can we do better? And where are the opportunities that exist?
I was talking to someone about this earlier. I was on a walk and talk and I was like, man, I remember my first HIMSS in Vegas in, I don't know, almost probably 10 years ago.
Right.
Hearing about AI, and I was like, man, this is mind-blowing. This is amazing. Look at all these people doing all these amazing things. And then I go the next year, and you hear the same talk track, and we're still fixing the same problems. And then sure enough, 10 years later, it's the same everything. The sessions aren't at the...
Right.
You expect these...
We're still talking about the problems and not implementing solutions.
Why are we not...
Right.
When are we actually going to move the needle?
Exactly.
I think that AI has obviously transformed significantly since from what it was like Watson was the big...
Watson was the thing.
Or IBM Watson was the big thing. I think they recently put Watson in the closet or on the shelf.
I didn't know it was sold to, I think, of venture capital. Don't quote me on that, but it was definitely acquired by another organization.
And they're trying different things.
Right. Just because it didn't work out, then we decided it's never going to work out.
Yeah.
I think that's been the mindset a lot of times in healthcare. Talk about blockchain, for example. How hot was blockchain 5 years ago, right? 6 years ago. We thought it was going to transform the industry, but yet to see any emergence in true blockchain applications that have caught a foothold in healthcare, not that it still shouldn't be applicable, but because it hasn't been successful yet. we're now moving on to the next thing.
So I do agree with Nadine's points.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, though, we have progressed a little bit with AI? I think there's a lot of promise with the technology that we see out today. I think there's a lot of potential. I do think, though, there are still challenges with the actual technology infrastructure that payers and providers have today. So there's a lot that needs to actually be overhauled and changed to actually have this technology make a meaningful impact. I also do think that there's still a lot of challenges whenever we look at access and equity. And I think that's something where you've seen the trend of we're talking about it a lot. I think there's so much work that has to be done. It's not that there's one simple answer to it, but I think that's a huge area that really needs attention.
Sure. No, absolutely. We can even dial it back to, AI today can be seen leading edge, bleeding edge, wherever your head is on it. But let's go back to something as simple as interoperability, right? Come on, people. How long have we been talking about that?
Nadine's first word.
Right.
So a while. We've been talking about it for how many years now?
Absolutely. Since you were 12, right?
Since I was 12. No, it's so funny. We host these happy, of course. We host these happy hours. And I remember it was like a year ago, there was a guy that was like, wait, what? Sharing information is hard?
Right.
Why is it? He just did not get it. I'm like,
because it hasn't been hard for every other industry.
Yeah.
It hasn't been that hard anyway. They've all been able to figure it out. And guess what? An SQL database is an SQL database, no matter what industry you're in. Why is it hard to share data?
Regulations. I think
it's the will, I believe. It's not a technology problem. I would just say that because there's too many other industries passing data. Look at the banking industry, for example. We're sharing data and all sorts of currency. We can even do currency exchanges.
Yeah.
I can be in Timbuktu and still get cash out of my ATM and get cash out of the ATM. Why can't I get my medical records from two different health systems down the street?
I think it's by design. There's obviously a lot of big pieces that go into it, but we've got HIPAA. We have regulations like 42 CFR Part 2. But I think a lot of folks, and I do a lot of work with behavioral health data. And folks are afraid to share data because providers don't know what, especially with especially regulated data, they don't know what they can and cannot share. And one of my hot takes, I don't even think it's a hot take. I think that organizations want to keep data within their organization. And
there lies the problem.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And I know 42 CFR Part 2 is recently, they've made some adjustments that I think phenomenal. They're moving in the right direction. But I think providers, they don't know what they can and cannot share.
Exactly.
And so they often, and I really don't blame them. They're holding back on what they're sharing because they don't want to break any rules. And I also think that maybe there's some providers could be misled because organizations want to keep, I don't want to like hospital systems want to keep the data within the hospital system. And EHRs want to keep it, they're like, we're sharing, but you can only share to another same system. Exactly. So we're like, it's super easy to be interoperable as long as every single hospital that you're sharing to is on the same platform.
Which defeats the purpose.
It's very dumb. And it hurts it's hurting patients, especially in the behavioral health space. It's awful.
Absolutely. Alexa, any thoughts on that?
Completely agree. And to Nadine's point, the competition between healthcare systems is really hurting patients.
Right.
And it's really sad to see that, which healthcare is a business, we all know that. Right. But it's sad to see whenever the business comes before the patient.
Mission. Exactly.
And we're making it really challenging from an experience standpoint, from an outcome standpoint. And really, we should be putting the patient first.
Sure. No, absolutely. So you guys are millennials.
We are. Okay. I don't know the Gen Z slang.
Oh, no worries. So. We'll roll with millennials, okay?
That's cat. That's cat.
There you go.
I don't know what that means.
Whatever it means. I, as a believer, the last year of baby boomers.
No.
Yes, I am.
No.
I am. Sad to say, but I am an old fogey.
You don't look like it. You would pass as a millennial.
You know what they say, right? Black don't crack.
I don't know what they say.
Okay, now you know. Now you know. Back on topic.
It's I feel uneducated here. I'm I don't know what you're saying. I don't know.
It's all a generational thing.
This is actually a connection back to interoperability and different data standards.
Oh, yes.
But guess what? We were able to figure that out, right?
And that's communication.
Communication. What an amazing thing. It's transformational. So as a millennial, what advice do you want to give the baby boomers who, again, created where we are today? The baby boomers, unfortunately, have been the generation that has facilitated most major economic shifts since 1948. When they came back from World War II and they started having babies, their Barbie dolls and Gerber baby food and Pampers and diapers, all G.I. Joes, rock and roll. We own it now. We created everything. I went from the time where there was just one phone in the house that was analog to now digital. We created cell phones. We created all of this mess, including the screwed up healthcare system. I almost said something else. The screwed up healthcare system we're living in today. And now we're looking for you guys to take care of us in our old age now. Every day 10,000 people are turning 65, and that's going to happen for the next 25 years. By 2050, 1/4 of the world's population will be over 65. You guys got a mess on your hands to deal with. What advice, what suggestions, what insights do you want to share with us folks who screwed all this stuff up?
I don't think you screwed up that much stuff.
Okay.
I will say, yes, I agree. The healthcare system is messed up. I think we all want it to change. But even the cell phone call out that you had, you've also created technology where we actually have all of the access that we need in our hand to get the healthcare resources that we need. So we need to figure out how to leverage things like that.
So kind.
Yeah. So I think you really actually created opportunities for healthcare. I think that clearly I'm on an access kind of soapbox today, but I think even from a standpoint of, making sure that patients can easily access their information, easily access the actual healthcare system when they need to. That is things like actually being able to schedule on their phone in a digital way, actually being able to meet with their provider asynchronously.
Exactly.
Essentially engaging with the healthcare system the way that they want to using technology. And I think it all comes down to meeting patients where they are. I think that's a really important concept that we have overlooked for the past several years.
So we were successful despite ourselves.
Yes. Yeah.
How about you, Nadine?
No, I think I agree. I think the patient access thing is always it's a very important thing to me because you come to these conferences, obviously, like we're all very tech forward. Anyone who's in this industry, we're always connected. I've got my Apple Watch here. I've got my phone. We're always available.
Exactly.
But we forget that there are a lot of populations that don't have access. They don't use cell phones and mental illness plays a role in it. But we also need to be supporting folks that we were supporting like 20 years ago before we had the whole internet or whole universe in our pockets. And I feel like we moved forward, but we're like leaving people behind.
Exactly.
And again, it's because
the digital gap that's existing.
And it makes me really sad that we just have the whole population that we're like, look, we're increasing access. Everyone, now that we have telehealth, everyone can just take their doctor's appointment from their living room. That is not, and we were like, this is universal. It's not universal.
No, it's
There's
not.
also still very large gaps in high-speed internet access.
Absolutely.
I've talked to a lot of providers and they're like, like in rural Maine, there's a huge area where folks just can't get the care that they need.
Exactly.
And we keep pushing forward. We're like, we're doing amazing things with telehealth. That's not to say we still are.
But the people that need it the most sometimes don't have the access to it because of those social determinant issues.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah, like broadband. Yeah.
Exactly. So like meeting, that's been like one of my themes for the past couple of months is like, how do you meet patients where they're at? Whether it's people, like not everyone has Wi-Fi access. So can you do like mobile clinics and go out to rural areas? And we really we literally need broadband. We need that. I feel like we don't talk about that enough. It's like, I say broadband, maybe it's just like high-speed internet access, but we need everywhere
that digital pipe.
And it's unreal that there's just such a huge gap.
Exactly. I like to say that technology really is the next utility, right? When you think about water and electricity, IT really is the next utility. You can't do anything today now without the use of information technology.
And people were like, oh, we're giving Obama the Obama phone like thing. And it made me so mad. And I'm like, you cannot go 45 seconds without looking at your cell phone, and you're getting upset that you can't do anything without a cell phone these days.
And we're trying to make it accessible. Right?
Yeah. It just...
Yeah. A topic for another day.
Yeah. I'm trying to hold back, pick one rant to go on today, right?
I understand. I do want to give us a chance, because I know we'll be coming up pretty soon to the end of this, and give you a chance to talk about Bonfire and what sparked that, and tell us a little bit more about your vision for it going forward.
Nadine and I have been hosting happy hours and gatherings in Atlanta for the past couple of years. I'd say it started out with to be honest, a lot of them were Nadine and me,
Mm-hmm.
maybe one other person.
There you go. It always starts there, right? You got to start
Pretty
with.
small.
That's it. That's still a gathering, 2 or more.
Yeah. But they grew over time. We saw more consistency.
Right.
We saw greater attendance.
Exactly.
And it's been fantastic.
Right.
There's a growing health tech community in Atlanta.
Right.
I know you've seen it as
Absolutely.
well. And it's been continuing to grow. And we've also seen the dynamic shift a little bit in Atlanta as well. And Nadine can even share more about this too. But we've seen people who work for Atlanta-based health tech companies, but also after the pandemic too, with remote work, now we're actually seeing a lot of people who are in health tech and they're working for startups that are not even based in Atlanta.
Exactly.
And now they're part of this community too.
Absolutely.
And we've been able to engage them and actually include them in our gatherings.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we recently launched the brand Bonfire ATL.
Yeah.
And
Congratulations.
thank you.
I like to say that we came out of stealth mode. We've been in
I
stealth
like-
for 2 years.
We
Yes.
have been in stealth mode. That does sound really
Right? It
cool.
sounds really cool.
Yes. I like that.
But
Any thoughts?
The
Yeah.
reception has just been phenomenal.
Right.
And of course, you were at our official launch party last
Right.
month. I do want to give a shout out, HealthTech Nerds. That's where we originally, those are our roots. We'd gotten started with that, but as we'd noticed, it had just grown and grown. Brought all these people that were outside of HealthTech Nerds. And that kind of, we're like, okay, maybe we really need to come up with it. Every month I'd be like, HealthTech hanging out, how like happy hour. Like I would always
Right.
humble, and I was like, we need to just come up with some kind of consistent branding because no one ever knows what to look for
Sure.
and find it. But the reception from the community has been amazing. Chris, you've just been when we got to hang out last
Right.
month, it was just so
Right.
phenomenal.
I really
So-
enjoyed it. I loved the energy that was there. And to your point, I met people that weren't based in Atlanta that were still coming and participating, and just the power of the diversity that was in that setting was very encouraging to last generation baby boomer as well. There is hope for us after all.
I will say I am even excited about the mix of individuals that we had. I know probably even in my description, I focus more on the new school, I'll
Right.
call it health
Right.
tech individuals.
Exactly.
But we have really fantastic communities that have existed in Atlanta for a long time. You're part of too, Georgia Hymns, TAG, several other groups. And the fact that we can bring those different groups together is really exciting to
Very
us.
powerful.
Yeah, so we're thrilled, especially at the turnout and excitement.
So what's up next for Bonfire?
Oh, we've had some fun conversations since we've been here in LA of all places.
I know.
Bonfire LA. I got a request to take it on the road and go to
Okay.
Virginia and go
Okay.
to a couple different states. I was like, let me start with, we really need to get this done in
Let's
Atlanta.
have one more, 2 more events in Atlanta, right?
We've had a couple of organizations that have reached out and wanted to partner on some fun things. I think
That's
we're
great.
wanting to really expand beyond. We're not just happy hours. I have a belief in plenty. I want to bring everyone along, but I also think there's a lot of value in creating
Exactly.
these like curated experiences, like intimate dinners,
Right.
panels.
I love it.
So we'll be making some announcements soon.
Sounds good. Keep it on the wraps too, because I think you've really got to.
We're excited to collaborate with others in
Absolutely.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
I think
Good.
there's a lot of fun groups we can work with on this.
Wonderful. We're coming up to the end of this episode. Again, I got to have you guys back on. It's been a joy and a pleasure to have you here and hear your thoughts and insights. If you could, any final thoughts? I'm just going to put an open-ended question out there. Anything you want to share with our listeners? This is the opportunity. And oh, by the way, for Bonfire, how can they reach you to find out more about that as well?
We can find us on. We've got a LinkedIn page. So it's Bonfire. It's BONE Fire ATL. I just find me on LinkedIn. I'm always willing to chat. I love connecting people. This is one of my greatest passions is making connections. And so just sending me a message on LinkedIn or Alexa. We'd love to get more people involved though.
Yeah, if you're in Atlanta, come out to a Bonfire ATL event. We'd love to have you. If you're stopping by Atlanta, come to an event. And yeah, like Nadine said, we love connecting with people. That's a shared passion of ours. So we would love to connect or meet up.
Wonderful. I think that's a wrap. We're going to let it sit for now, but please, I've got an open invitation for you to come back
Love that.
for us to talk more and let's stir up some stuff again. I love it.
This has been so fun. I've
Good,
loved
good.
Yeah, it's one of my
Yeah.
first podcast experiences. and
Well,
it's been
wonderful.
So great.
It's absolutely the best. So you can't. It's downhill from here now. So
He set the bar very high.
absolutely. It's always it's all about the guest.
Love it.
So again, Alexa Morse, Nadine Peeve, thank you so much for joining me on Straight Outta Health IT. I look forward to having you back in the future. And take care, everyone. God bless, and see you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to Straight Outta Health IT. We hope you enjoyed today's guest. For more unfiltered dialogue of healthcare leaders and influencers, be sure to tune in next week. For the show notes, transcripts, and resources, please visit Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite streaming platform. We invite you to give us feedback by reaching out to Christopher Kunney on LinkedIn, just searching for Straight Outta Health IT, and you'll find us. We are constantly having live discussions about diverse topics in the industry.